Okay, we're back. Since the last time we were looking at this motor, we've put on the coil and the flywheel along with the starter pulley. The coil is a brand new replacement coil. This is an old lamination that was removed from a bad coil, and we put on this new old stock coil kit. An original McCulloch part. So we got a nice new coil on here, and we mounted it using the original lamination clips plus epoxy. So it's been epoxied on the center leg of the lamination and wired up using the kit wires on each side. And we added this rubber boot that didn't come with the coil kit but came from the old coil. Along with some high temp RTV to seal this end of the ignition wire up. I wanted to show this to you. The points that went into this are ones that were chemically cleaned using a mixture in a cup of salt, baking soda, aluminum foil, and then they were polished and rinsed, and they work really well. I wanted to show you the spark in this if you can see it. I'm just turning this by hand. It goes to show if you get really this together right, you can get quite a heck of a spark out of an old point magneto system. That's shooting a good over -1/4 inch long spark, just turning this by hand. Okay, we got the head on at this point. It went pretty well. No issues getting that on. As far as the head goes, the gasket's in place. Torque these head bolt screws down to 75 inch-pounds, and you can torque them that high as long as you pre-coat them with oil. So they were coated with a 30 weight oil and torqued to 75 inch-pounds each. Spark plug's been put in place for the ignition wire boot. We do need to find a different spark plug. I'm not too keen about having a Japanese spark plug sitting there in the open on a nice American-made engine. So we'll try to find something more correct for the period. An Autolite or a Champion spark plug would sit nice there. You can see how the shrouds match up, and just about ready to go do some painting. Okay, we finished up the painting. You can see the paint turned out pretty well. Got Rust-Oleum Sunburst Yellow. It's a pretty good match. It's inexpensive. You can go to the extreme of getting color matched paint for the old McCulloch Yellow. So this paint tends to be a little bit more orangey than the original Mac Yellow, but you know, it's a pretty good match and readily available, and does a nice job. The paint was baked in the oven for an hour. It's time to put the manifold on for the carburetor and the reed valve assembly. This is the stock one that normally comes on the early vintage motors or even the saw engines, and it has a opening here for the third port passageway, which is something McCulloch used on a lot of the early car motors. The third port passage, of course, we modified to use as a boost port feed, so it's been disabled as use as a third port. So we don't want to have this hole here because that'll bypass the reed valves and just create an air leak in the crankcase. So you can see it doesn't seal off anymore because we made this cutout on the casting. So we want to fill this in. I guess we could have filled this in with epoxy or done some kind of fabrication work to it, but the one thing I wanted to do is get a little more reed area on it but maintain the appearance of the stock motor. So I wanted to use the stock manifold or something to look like it. So what was decided was to do make a reed plate that doesn't have the third port opening, and you can see the difference there. And so we made that out of a piece of plate aluminum, and but used a reed pedal assembly from a MC-49E. Now that engine had a much more reed area, and you can see the difference there in the opening. It's about 30% more width at the reed tip, more feed area, so it should have a much better performance. So we got a 49E reed pedal and reed guard in here, and that'll bolt up just like that with a gasket underneath, of course. And we had to custom cut some gaskets, and then the manifold sits on top of that with another gasket. So it's assembled to look like that, just like a nice stock motor. But okay, we finished up the final assembly, and this motor's ready to run. So you get the clutch on it and mount it on the cart. But that's all together. We got the carburetor on. Put a Tilson carburetor on, a gas carb, and had the manifold assembly on, the reed plate that we custom made for the boost ported engine, and it's ready to go.